turn the mic on. That might help. Computer audio. Can you hear me? Let us know if you can hear us, guys. We are waiting patiently. Hey, welcome to the second half of Live and Coffee Current Events in Luqman Nation. I'm Jackie Luqman.
And I'm Shahi Luqman. Thank you for joining us and bearing with us through all of the technical difficulties that we're having. It would be nice to have one of these little whiz kids around here to know how to do all this stuff. But, we're middle-aged folks trying to navigate through this thing.
Yeah.
But that's no excuse. Anyway, the first half with Brother Ajmal Baraka, and we appreciate and thank him for joining us. Mm-hmm. And on a very timely and important discussion with African, because there, as we see, there's a lot of misconceptions about it. There's a lot of things that need to be explained, and we have a right to ask these questions, and we have a right to to keep our government on its toes and to be responsible. That is the responsibility of any so-called democratic society.
Right. We
are increasingly losing the democracy part as we drift more towards militarism, fascism. No disrespect to any veterans out here, but I just felt that for a long time that the militarism that is being embraced so much. We've seen this happen, this ultra-nationalist concept that always lead to fascism.
Right.
This hyper-nationalism. Mm-hmm. And we know that we could trace it back to Mussolini, where fascist is an Italian word. So Mussolini, who was the template of fascism that Hitler modeled himself after, that a lot of people try to model themselves after. And to know that fascism always maintained the same ingredients, whether it was in the 19th century, the 20th century, whether it was in the 21st century, it always maintained the same ingredients. And it always seems to find its way of hating the same people.
How is that? How is that? How do we not notice that? How do we not notice the common strains of the rise of unchecked militarism and imperialism, and not just what it does and where it ends up, but who it always targets?
Right, exactly. And you notice that it always starts out, especially with the recent examples of fascism. When I say recent examples, at least within the last 100 years, have always been xenophobia.
Right.
Always, anti-intellectual. First thing they do when fascists take over is get rid of the smart people.
Well, they go after the teachers. They go after the artists. They go after the thinkers, the philosophers, the people who encourage you to think critically for yourself and question everything.
And those people that are capable of leading a society into rebellion. Unfortunately, and I don't like to call anybody stupid, but unfortunately, stupid people, you normally don't lead rebellions, or let's put it in a more kinder, gentler way. I'm thinking I'm on pit bulls in politics, but kind of gentler way is folks who are less educated. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Are usually don't lead rebellions. They don't lead these type of rebellions. They usually are your foot soldiers. When they got, like Kwame Ture told us, the late Kwame Ture told us that usually the unconscious are always your foot soldiers. Once they get the understanding once they get the understanding of what's happening, then they're usually your foot soldiers, and they will sacrifice everything once they embrace and fully embrace a cause. So that's why we never give up on people.
Right. And let's be clear. It's not like we're saying we don't need foot soldiers. We absolutely do.
You better believe
we absolutely do.
Well, you need foot soldiers because they got their foot soldiers.
Right.
And their foot soldiers, we know who their foot soldiers are. Their foot soldiers are the police. Their foot soldiers, some of these right-wing neo-Nazis that we've seen, Charlottesville and stuff like that. They have their foot soldiers. They have their people that they know their job is to kill you. They know that their job is to commit violence against you. You know, these lone wolves. The so-called lone wolves.
Right.
That is just a pack that they just sent this way, that way, that way. They took a pack of wolves and just gave them individual assignments.
Right.
But again, you know, we have to understand, and throughout human history, that there always has been a place. This is why Antifa is so important. I know a lot of people don't like Antifa, but sometimes you have to speak the language. You know, sometimes you have to speak the language of your enemy when they don't want to speak peace. What I'm saying is that when your enemy does not want to come to the negotiating table, when your enemy does not want to seek peace, when your enemy doesn't want to come to any common ground with you, but your enemy is bent on hurting you, well, then you can't reason with that person.
Right.
You know, then that means that when you can't reason with that person, then it's you and them. And what happens is the fact that there comes a time and that you know, you have to speak the language of that enemy. You know, come win, lose, or draw. You have to speak that, you know. And so, you know, peace has its place. And we always hope for that. We always hope that, you know, civilized behavior rules the day.
Right.
But there's some people that just aren't interested in that. And it's not always with individuals. We're talking about institutions. We're talking about the violence that's committed by banks. We're talking about right now the violence that's committed by fossil fuel industries and others, which is giving us hurricanes like Michael.
Right.
You know, which is, I posted today on a couple of our platforms some very disturbing, Jackie, environmental news. I mean, one story, if many of you seen it, had to do with finding the largest dead spot in the Gulf of Mexico, which I believe is a direct result of that damn oil spill that BP had, that we watched on camera, just pumping millions of gallons of oil per minute into the Gulf of Mexico.
Right.
Yeah, you can wipe off the birds with dawn, and you can go out there and skim the top, but you can't tell me that the amount of oil that was allowed to escape in that Gulf of Mexico hasn't contributed to this largest dead zone that we've seen in the Gulf of Mexico, which led to the extinction and depletion of a lot of fish species and everything else. I mean, and this has a trickle-down effect, because what happens is that this, you know, people's livelihood depended on fishing in the Gulf of Mexico.
Exactly.
And that livelihood depended on tourism coming there to eat the food. So these things have consequences. These affect individual people. They affect industries. They affect all these other things. And you know, BP and other oil companies stuff were just allowed to get off with paying $1 billion, which is chump change for them.
Pocket change for them.
Right. And yet, in spite of all this, in spite of Michael being the strongest hurricane that some say we've saw in 100 years,
right? That made landfall in Florida. The strongest hurricane that made landfall in Florida in a century. And that followed Florence. Right. You know what I mean? Right. So, and then, you know, so the thing of it is that, you know, we know what's going on. Some of us know that you know, there's something in the air. We know literally something in the air. Yeah. And we also understand that, you know, this man, you know, we're killing this planet. We're killing this planet, yet we're constantly being lied to by politicians, by the media, a media which refused to even mention climate change. Yeah. A media that would sit up there and talk about how strong these storms are. We see the devastation and everything else, yet they will not say we're doing this. You know, we're the ones. It's and when we say we're not talking about the entire planet. What we're talking about are these wealthy nations, the United States and China, and you know, that have over-industrialized and refuse to find, they refuse to invest, and especially true with the United States, refuse to invest in the technology. We should have been off of fossil fuels running our cars since the 60s. And it's not that the technology existed then. And that's what I was about to say. It's not that we didn't have the technology to do that. It's not that we didn't know how to do that. And it's not that even that the industry, the auto industry, the oil industry. It's not even that they didn't know we needed to do that. Because understand, ExxonMobil knew about climate change. They had a study in what year was that? 1970.
They had the study in the mid-70s. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
I can't know the exact time frame, but it was somewhere in the mid-70s that Exxon. Because let me say something. This whole thing about climate change is nothing new. I mean, the warnings on climate change is nothing new.
Right.
I mean, we found an article, and I think we posted it at one time, but we found an article where scientists back in the 1900s, the early 1900s, were warning against all of these coal furnaces that industries were using.
And they used the words climate change.
They used climate change, and they said that if, with the amount of industries that was going on during the 1900s, in England and United States and stuff, and with the amount of coal that was being burned, fossil fuel that was being burned, they warned that this was going to adversely affect the climate. This was back in 1900. So this science has been around for a while.
Right.
For people to sit up here and say, for politicians to sit up here today and say that climate change hasn't been, it's fake news, climate change is a hoax, or it's this. Scientists back in the early 1900s, and I think probably back, if I'm not mistaken, probably around like 1903 or something. It was before World War One. That scientists were saying, look, we need to cut down on burning all this coal because it's going to adversely affect the climate. So they were giving the warning signs then. Here we are in 2018, and now we're starting to feel it.
Right.
And all you have to do is look around, as Jackie and I have done this summer, and notice no bees. Crop failures because of no pollinating bees around. The fact that it's October and we're and look, I'm from New Jersey. I understand DC has a slightly different climate than where I'm from. But damn it, the hell shouldn't be no 80 degrees in October. I don't care what y'all say.
Should not be.
80 degrees in October. You know what I mean? So, so we understand that something is going on, and we let fear paralyze us. See, this is the time when we should be taking action now. Not look, indulge me in my soapbox, but it's not so much for me. I'm 52 years old, and maybe if I'm lucky, based off my family genes, I might be here now another 30 years. But I'm really looking at my grandchildren.
Right.
I'm looking at those that will come after that.
Right.
It's already been said by scientists that the climate collapse that is coming if we don't do anything will happen within the lifetime of our children.
Yep.
And our grandchildren.
Yep.
So the babies are already born that are going to catch hell because we refuse to do anything about saving the environment.
Yep. That's really just the whole crux of the truth. There's really nothing else to say about that. So we got work to do. So it appears, you guys, that our next guest is not going to make it.
Okay.
He has not connected yet, so we will try to get Reverend Graylin Hagler on another night. We'll see if we can grab him up tomorrow night. And let me just check this camera over here because I am not sure if we are having problems with Facebook right now. We might be. Let me see. So let me get out of here. And let me check to see what is going on. Let's go back over here to the camera. Alrighty. You gonna work? Okay. Let's see what's happening. Well, Facebook is acting weird. YouTube is fine. Let's check what's going on with this camera here, guys. All right. Let me go go to that display capture. Nope. Turn that off. Camera 1. Nothing? Still nothing on YouTube? Okay. All right, that camera's fine.
Well, we don't want to waste the entire show trying to get things together. If we have to do another show, then we just have to do another show.
Yeah, it looks like we may have to. Let me try this one thing one more time. All right, there's that. And I don't want to do that one. All right, so we are having problems with our cameras, but look at that.
Okay. Well.
You know, just when you think you got it all straightened out, there's always something. There we go. Always something that makes things really difficult. So anyway, listen, we're going to wrap tonight's show up.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we're starting to have weird technical difficulties and we don't want to waste a whole lot of people's time. We hope that you enjoyed our discussion with Ajamu Baraka. And yes, we are absolutely going to have him on again and some other members of not just Black Alliance for Peace, but of, like we said, Friends of the Congo, and UNAC, the United National Anti-War Coalition, and just a bunch of people who have been working on anti-war, anti-imperialist, anti-militarism, and peace-focused efforts, not just around the world, but here in the United States, and connecting all of those issues. And we are going to absolutely have our own pastor on the show, Reverend Graylin Hagler. We're going to save the clip that we have of him,
right? Yeah.
From and we like this clip because it's from 1990.
Yeah, we have it on our page if folks want to go to it.
Yeah.
It's not an actual video, because it's an old video, and so it's under Boston something, but you'll see the heading on it.
Right, I think it's Boston. Protest for drug treatment.
Well, yeah,
something like that. In 1990, and it just speaks to the fact that there are people in the faith community who not only are about the work for justice for oppressed people and for racial justice, but who have been about the work for years. And we are thankful that our pastor is one of those people. So we will be back, hopefully. We'll see how we can work things out. Maybe tomorrow night, maybe one night this weekend, with a conversation with Reverend Hagler to focus on the domestic struggle for liberation for Black people and what that looks like on a local level right here in Washington, D.C. that we're dealing with. So thank you all very much for tuning in to our discussion with Ajamu Baraka. We apologize for the issues that we have reconnecting with Facebook. We'll figure that out, you guys. But as usual, look, thank you very much for your support. If you like what you're hearing, if you like what you see, if you like the information you receive here in Luqman Nation, consider becoming a monthly patron through Patreon. If you can't do monthly support, then please consider a one-time donation through our GoFundMe page. You can find us on Patreon and GoFundMe under Luqman Nation, LuqMannation. Yes, we will provide a link to Black Alliance for Peace and their campaign to end U.S. AFRICOM on this video once it finishes processing. And yes, folks on Facebook, you'll find this whole video from YouTube on the Facebook page. What else you got?
Nothing.
So thank y'all so much for joining us tonight. We really, really appreciate you. Share this video with all your friends. And as always, be really, really good to each other. Peace.